This is lesson 11 grammar. We will be having 5 grammar points today, and they will be mostly about numbers. We have learned how to count in the previous lessons early on in our class, but there are different ways of counting things in Japanese, and we will be lightly touching on that. So for first part, okay, saying numbers, we have 1つ、2つ、3つ、4つ、5つ、6つ、7つ、8つ、9つ, and 10. So these are words that are used to count things up to 10. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. This is not just like counting 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's for counting things. Okay, so for example, I have one pen 1つ. Okay, so 11 and higher are counted by using the numbers themselves, which is, I think we all know, 11, 12, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in counting things in general, we use 1つ、2つ、3つ、4つ, and so on and so forth. So these are listed in the vocabulary list. So please do memorize those. It's useful if you are trying to learn Japanese. Okay, so now we have counter suffixes. Okay, counter suffixes. When counting some sorts of things or expressing the quantity of things, counter suffixes are attached after the numbers. So I think we have had counter suffixes before, like ji, time for time, sai for age, okay, isai, nisai, sansai, and so on and so forth. We also have fun, pun, or bun for minutes, and now we are gonna learn the other ones. So in Japanese, the way you count things is different for different kinds of things as well, like different categories of things. For example, we have here nin for people, number of people except for 1 and 2. So 1 is hitori and 2 is futari, but the rest are sannin, yonin, as you can see here, yonin, okay, 5nin, 6nin, and so on and so forth. So except for hitori and futari, it's going to be the same plus nin. Okay, and then we also have dai for the number of machines or vehicles like cars and bicycles, PCs, so on and so forth, right? Machines. So for example, I have 2 PCs. I say PC 2台 arimasu. Okay, 2台. So 1台, 2台, 3台, and so on and so forth. And for a number of thin or flat things such as paper, dishes, shirts, CDs, like thin stuff, okay, we use mai as a counter suffix. So 1枚, 2枚, 3枚, so on and so forth. More of these is we have times, number of times. So we use kai, okay, as an end or as a counter suffix for when you're counting the number of times. So for example, I do this twice, I do this thrice, I do this 4 times, okay, 1回, 2回, 3回, so on and so forth, okay. And then we have minutes. We have learned this before in a previous lesson. Fun or pun, okay, 1分, 2分, 3分, and so on and so forth, okay. And we also have hours. 時間, 1時間, 2時間. This is different from telling the time. This is like saying just like it will take 1 hour. It will take 2 hours, and so on and so forth. 1時間, 2時間, 3時間, and so on and so forth. And we also have for days, we have 日, 1日, 1日, 3日, and so on and so forth, okay. We also have 週間 for weeks, okay. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, okay. 1週間, 2週間, 3週間. And then we have ヶ月, okay. ヶ月 is for months. 1ヶ月, 2ヶ月, 3ヶ月, okay. And then lastly, we have nen for years. 1年, 2年, 3年, and so on. So counting in Japanese is not limited to these. There are more specific counter suffixes, but these are the most common ones and the most basic ones per se. All right, usage of numbers and quantifiers. Numbers with counter suffixes are usually put before the verbs they modify. However, this is not always the case with length of time. But if we omit this part, we don't think about that for now. Okay. For first one, we have リンゴを4つ買いました. If you see here, the 4つ, which is 4 pieces of apples, comes before the verb. Okay, so you modify 買いました, the verb, buy, bought. Okay, リンゴを4つ買いました. So it always comes before the verb that it modifies, except for time, of course, length of time. But we will go into that later. And then we have 外国人. 外国人 means foreign. 外国人の学生 means foreign students. 学生 means students, okay? And there's a no here which connects these two nouns and making them a compound noun. And it's just 外国人の学生が2人います. Okay, so this is the verb that it is modifying, and then this is the quantifier. 2人います. There are 2 foreign students. And lastly, this is with the length of time. 国で2ヶ月日本語を勉強しました. As you can see here, 2ヶ月 is before the noun, not before the verb itself. So the verb here is 勉強しました. But 2ヶ月, 2 months, comes before Nihongo, which is Japanese. 日本語を勉強しました. But then if we see here, Nihongo is the object of 勉強しました. Okay? Which means this is kind of the verb as a whole. Okay? So 2ヶ月日本語を勉強しました. So 2ヶ月 came before the object of the verb. For time. This is only acceptable for length of time. So for example, 国で2日 2 days 日本語を勉強しました. Let's not use 2日 because it makes things complicated. Let's say 2 years 国で2年日本語を勉強しました. Alright. I don't know if this is gonna make it easier to comprehend. But let me just rewrite the things that we had, okay? We had ringo, right? Apple. リンゴを okay, 4つ買いました. See here, 4つ came before 買いました, the buy. We can also say, you know what? Let's just put 学生 in here. 学生が. I don't know if you remember, but the previous lesson we had existence, right? Presence of a thing or a person. And for persons, we use います. Okay? So, for example, we have here います. Because we're talking about 学生. 学生 are students, which are people, right? 学生が, let's say there are 3 students. 学生が3人います. Again, the quantifier came before the verb います. However, for the length of time, we had 国で in my country. Okay? 国で日本語を勉強しました. Okay, 国で日本語を勉強しました. That alone is a complete sentence, right? 日本語を勉強しました. But if you add, how long did you study Nihongo or Japanese? You say 2年, okay? 2年日本語を勉強しました. So instead of going here, the quantifier for time is here, okay? Before the object of the verb 勉強しました. I hope that makes it clear. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment in the YouTube video or in our class discussions. Now let's proceed to the next part. Interrogatives. Okay, so we have interrogatives. いくつ. First is いくつ. いくつ is used to ask how many about things which are counted as 一つ、二つ, and so on. So in general, right? みかんをいくつ買いましたか? みかん is oranges, right? Mandarin oranges. みかんをいくつ買いましたか? If you notice here, the placement is basically the same as quantifiers. So interrogatives just replace quantifiers. Okay, so they are in the same position before the verb. So みかんをいくつ買いましたか? 8つ買いました. I bought 8. Okay, and then we have none. Okay, none is used with a counter suffix to ask how many. So as mentioned before, いくつ is used for things which are counted as 一つ、二つ, so on and so forth. 三つ, right? Okay. Other than that, if you have a counter suffix in mind, okay, you use none plus the counter suffix. I think we have gone through this lesson before. If you remember, it's going to be none plus sai, right? Nan sai. Nanji, what time? Nansai is how old. Nanji is what time. Nanpun is how many minutes or what minute, which minute. Okay? So, for example, we have here この会社に外国人が何人いますか? この会社 this company に in this company 外国人がforeigners 何人いますか? Okay, how many foreigners are there in this company? So again, this interrogative came before the verb. Okay, 何人いますか? Alright? Okay. Next is どのくらい. どのくらい is used to ask the length of time something takes. Okay, you can use various units of time in the answer. So どのくらい is how long. How long is it going to take? Or how long did it take? どのくらい日本語を勉強しましたか? Again, if you notice here, どのくらい comes before the object of the verb. どのくらい because we're talking about the length of time. So it's basically the same as the one we had previously, which was 2ヶ月, right? 2 months. 日本語を勉強しました. Now this time we have どのくらい日本語を勉強しましたか? 3年勉強しました. Okay? Alright. Now ぐらい is added after quantifiers to mean about. So if you are giving an estimate, okay? 学校に先生が3人ぐらいいます. There are about 30 teachers in our school. So it comes after the quantifier. Okay, ぐらい comes after the quantifier. So 30人 Okay, ぐらいいます. Alright. So in summary of this part of the lesson, okay, we had いくつ for things counted with 一つ、二つ, so on. And then we have none plus counter suffix for things counted with counter suffixes. For example, nan, nin. Okay, nan, nin, nan. 何時間 Okay, 何時間 or 何ヶ月 and so on and so forth. And then we have here どのくらい. どのくらい is for asking the length of time. And then we have ぐらい, which is not an interrogative. I realize here it should not be part of this. ぐらい is for giving estimates. Now reminder that interrogatives usually come before the verb that is going to be modified. Okay? Usually comes before the verb. So that is the summary of our second grammar for today. Now we are going to talk about adding the quantifier as a period of time to state how many times we've done something. So we have here quantifier period ni something kai verb. With this expression, you can say how often you do something. For example, we have here 1ヶ月に, so that is the period we have, the quantifier, 1ヶ月に in 1 month, okay? 1ヶ月に2回映画を見ます。2回 twice. I go to see movies twice a month. So 1ヶ月 is 1 month. 1ヶ月に2回 is twice a month. 1ヶ月に2回. So quantifier に something 回. So that is giving you like how many times you do this in a period of time. For example, you can also say 1日に something 回. So 3回. Or 1日に1回シャワーを浴びます. I take a shower once a day. So on and so forth. And then we have quantifier だけ or noun だけ. So だけ means only. It is added after quantifiers or nouns to express that there is no more or nothing else. だけ I only have Sundays off. 休みは日曜日だけです. So it is used after quantifiers or nouns. Okay, 休みは日曜日だけです. Or ペンは一つだけです. I only have one pen. So it's quantifier or noun. 今いるのは This is a little bit advanced. 今いるのは私だけです. Right now, I'm the only one here. 私だけです. あなただけです. あなただけが好きです. I only like you. So on and so forth. So this lesson is quite short. But let me know if you have questions or if there are unclear parts to the lessons. Okay? And I will answer your questions possibly in a separate video or in the comment or in your question in our discussions. So I will post another discussion post in our Google Classroom for my class. So please do check that out and comment your questions. And I will end lesson 11 here. Lesson 12 will also be very, very short. But that's okay. This is to not overwhelm you with grammars that we are learning every day. Okay. Reminder that we have for our references Minna no Nihongo 1 and Genki. Okay, the textbook Genki. They are widely available online. So if you want to have the resources, you can search them up online. Unfortunately, I don't think I can add links or clickable links in the description, but I will try to. Alright, so thank you everyone, and I'll see you next lesson.